Hey guys, Ron here, and for a while I've wanted to make a video showcasing the way I go about experiencing Pokemon. I believe Pokemon's #1 draw as a game is that you can play the way you want. Everybody falls in love with different Pokemon, characters, and even music, and it all depends on how you like to play the games and why you play them in the first place. I play Pokemon for the Pokemon themselves and the world they inhabit, and you may play Pokemon to battle competitively, I don't know. A while back I showed you guys in a separate video all the various ways people have fun with the franchise, and it's finally time to show you the way I have fun. I'm not going to focus too much on the things I don't do, but rather mostly talk about the way I assemble my team and go about playing a Pokemon game, how I get a taste of Pokemon in my everyday life outside of Pokemon, and what I actively do as a fan to, well, stay a Pokemon fan after all these years. Before moving on to the specifics, it seems like my general love for Pokemon comes from the Pokemon themselves. They're the reason I play Pokemon, and I'm usually super satisfied by every main series game because I just want to bond with my team and learn about how every single Pokemon lives in the Pokemon world. Does this translate into how I personally experience Pokemon? Yeah, that's kind of the point of the video. Let's start by talking about I always use the starter. I know that's not a hot take. The way I play will diverge from the average as the video goes on. But to be clear, I never box my starter, and it's always exactly 5 levels above my other Pokemon, except for the last 2 gens where they're 2 levels above. In Kanto I chose Venusaur, in Johto I choose Feraligatr, but did a recent playthrough with Typhlosion. I always pick Sceptile and Hoenn. All 3 have been used in Sinnoh, as well as Unova, but I've grown attached to Samurott and now only pick Samurott when playing through Unova. Chestnut in Kalos, always Decidueye in Alola, and Rillaboom in Galar. Although I wouldn't be opposed to choosing a Scorbunny one time. You may think it doesn't matter, but I believe your playthrough is slightly affected by the starter you choose, at least more than any other Pokemon. I form a great attachment to my partner Pokemon, and it's one of the main things I look forward to when starting or restarting a new game. When it comes to the rest of my team, I rarely put a Pokemon in my party that I assume will be taken out later in the playthrough, because I generally feel negative feelings when I discard a Pokemon I've become somewhat attached to. In the first 6 gens, I usually make sure to get some kind of flying type Pokemon as soon as possible, usually the regional bird or a Crobat. I try my best to use a Pokemon I have not used in the past. That means it is true, I have never transferred a Pokemon from a previous generation into the next. And you know what that means. The whole National Dex controversy mattered 0% to me. I usually fill up my team by the 4th gym, which does make some playthroughs feel sluggish around the 6th gym because by then all my Pokemon are fully evolved, and that's my favorite part. Having a Pokemon that will become a better version of itself is the most exciting aspect of Pokemon. Character development is my favorite part of fiction in general, but that's why I never feel tired in Black and White, because the Pokemon evolve later than usual, therefore there is more challenge too. I try to make sure all my Pokemon have a unique type, but there are times, especially as a kid, where I would have a Pokemon of the same type on my team. I do have 2 grass types in Hoenn a lot of the times, and I always have 2 poison types in Kanto. That's not my fault really, just how those specific regions are designed. I used to place the mascot legendary Pokemon on my team, but stopped doing that at the age of like 17. But my playstyle has changed the most over the last 2 years. In Let's Go and Gen 8, you have a PC that you can access outside the Pokemon Center, and when that's in play, I either have 2 separate teams or an entire team of interchangeable Pokemon that can range from 10 to 12 Pokemon. It's super fulfilling and allows me to bond with way more Pokemon than I used to. And with the EXP share, I'm able to make sure that they're all caught up level-wise. I never nickname my Pokemon in the first playthrough of a game because I kinda want to learn the names of the Pokemon in a new gen, but I do nickname them in my subsequent playthroughs. I use Pokemon Camp or Ami from time to time, although admittedly Refresh and Ami more than Pokemon Camp in my main playthrough. I do use it in the postgame though. I simply didn't want my Pokemon to be enduring moves and landing tons of critical hits like they did in Generation 7. Now when it comes to the way I play the game, I take my time. I never rush through a Pokemon game. I even played with a guide as a teenager because I wanted to talk to everybody in the game and find every item, although I did relax a bit since then. I happily watch all the cutscenes and I'm not angered by dialogue. I'm not really angered by anything honestly, but that's just me. Of course there are things I dislike, like being stopped after every route or town, but I forget about it and move on. If I have the ability to, why not just focus on what makes me happy? As long as I'm registering the negatives when it's time to be critical, I think it's fine to only focus on the things I like when playing, just the personal manner I play in. As a kid, I didn't really care about the characters, but in the last 2 gens, I've really fallen in love with the characters in the game. I always finished the post-game mission, but never really completed a post-game. I love the Battle Frontier in Hoenn and Pokemon World Tournament in Black 2, but other than those, I rarely indulge in the post-game battle facilities. And that's not a bad thing because it's an extra thing to perhaps look forward to when restarting a game. You know, actually playing the post-game. I don't try to catch them all, and I don't even try catching Pokemon during my playthrough. Collecting isn't the reason I play Pokemon, honestly, but that has changed in Pokemon Sword and Shield, because the Pokemon Pokemon are so fun to interact with in the wild, and it's exhilarating watching them move and attack in their habitats. Now I finally have a reason to go out and find as many Pokemon as I can. And since I'm doing that, I might as well complete the dex. So I did. It's the first game I've ever completed a regional dex in. Not only that, I'm using all the Pokemon I've caught in the Battle Tower and Pokemon League tournaments. It's fun. I have so many Pokemon to choose from. When I was collecting all the Pokemon for my decks, I would just play during the in-game sunset after a day of work and relax while listening to a podcast. It was beautiful. As you've guessed, I don't play Pokemon competitively. Other than Emerald and Black 2, I don't really play the same Pokemon game more than once every 4 or 5 or even 8 years. I did use the secret bases in Oras quite a lot, and as a kid I enjoyed contests in Hoenn. I rarely use the Underground though, and I hope to in the eventual Sinnoh remakes. EXP share is always off if possible, except for my first X and Y playthrough, and when some Pokemon are under-leveled. But it's the main reason Sun and Ultra Moon were relatively difficult for me, and therefore my opinion of those games are way above the average, cause I had so much fun with my EXP share off. Sometimes I set the mood by playing near a window or even outside in the summer, but if it's handheld, I'm always playing with earphones. I do listen to the music, and I don't understand the opposite perspective. So how am I experiencing the wonderful world of Pokemon when I'm not literally playing the games? How do I constantly experience Pokemon without burning out? That's my secret. I'm always experiencing Pokemon. I never burn out, because the way I experience the most of my intake of Pokemon is outside of playing the games. I play 1 or 2 Pokemon games max in 1 year. I don't play spin-offs in my adulthood, except for Pokemon Go, and we'll talk about that later. I don't play any fan games, and I used to collect the cards as a child, but haven't in more than 10 years. I've never read the manga, although I intend to soon. And I watched the anime as a kid, pretty much all of Kanto, Hoenn, and X and Y with a smattering of Johto and Sinnoh, while following the episodes and plot progression of the seasons I didn't watch. So if I don't consume all these official spin-off materials, how am I constantly experiencing Pokemon? Well, I am a Poketuber after all. Thinking about Pokemon is my job. I don't play it for a living though, so I play it less than the average Poketuber, but aside from when I do it for my job, as a kid, I spent a great deal of time creating Fakemon. I'd say 60% of my in-class doodles were Pokemon related. In college, I would even make fake abilities and moves and jot them down. It really helped during lectures, honestly. Over the last year, I collected a ton of comfy and serene Pokemon fan art that I play on a loop on a monitor above my desk while I work. It's super soothing and puts me in a state of peace, but the majority of the way I experience Pokemon is by learning about the lore, design, and origins of every Pokemon, region, character, or story. I research these elements, making Pokemon even more interesting to me than it is to the average fan. It's constantly a topic that is floating in my mind. I learn about the real-world locations that inspire in-game spots, which makes the game come alive. I get a kick out of every single Pokemon because they all have some kind of personality, lore, or origin that I get to experience beyond just playing with them in the game. To me, Pokemon isn't shallow. Every little thing has a parallel in the real world. It's actually how I consume most of my media, and how I look at fiction and fantasy in general. It's a way to understand our own world, and it's a main theme of my channel in general. Sometimes I learn about the creation of Pokemon themselves and the behind the scenes of the games, so Pokemon isn't nostalgic to me anymore because I'm always experiencing it. But the number one way I seem to experience Pokemon has to be the music. Music is one of the Pokemon elements that still triggers nostalgia in me all the time. I listen to Pokemon music every single day of my life, at least for the last 6 years. It's my alarm music. I used to listen to it on the bus to school and college. I download any remix or cover I love, which actually changed my perception of some of the tracks in Pokemon. For example, Route 11 from Unova sounds great, but I became obsessed with it after listening to remasters of it, like this one. Lacunosa Town became my favorite town theme after listening to this official Lacunosa Town remix by Game Freak at least 1,000 times. According to iTunes, it's the track I've listened to the most out of any piece of music on Earth. The music makes the locations and characters in the games last in my mind well after I finish playing the games. I'm not playing Diamond and Pearl every day. That would burn me out quickly. But Jubilife City is always on my mind because it's always in my ear. I've heard Maze Encounter theme hundreds of times. That means I've thought about my memories playing my favorite childhood game hundreds of times too. I'm listening to atmospheric and happy music when I go on my leisurely walks every other day. Combined with Pokemon Go, so it's like I'm catching Pokemon in the real world at my own pace. When I work, I'm listening to calm Pokemon tunes, and if I happen to be working out or running for some reason, I'm listening to my intense battle theme playlist. Because I'm listening to music during pleasant times in my life, like walking home after the last day of school, whenever I hear these tracks while I'm walking or working, I remember such happy moments. This conditioned me to feel awesome when I'm listening to Pokemon music, which makes me want to replay the games, and in turn makes me feel great when I'm playing the games, which creates an endless loop of the music making me enjoy the game, which makes me want to listen to the music in my everyday life. It's the same when I'm learning the origins of various Pokemon, or learning about the locations that inspired places I can explore in the game. When I see any kind of endearing fan art of Pokemon I took for granted, I instantly appreciate the Pokemon way more, which makes me want to train that Pokemon in-game now that I understand its potential personality more. Because regardless of a Pokemon's design, if I can imagine myself vibing with that Pokemon, I'm entertained. And that's the point of Pokemon, to be entertained. My advice would be to find supplementary Pokemon fun that creates an endless loop of enjoyment, like Pokemon music or fan art does to me. And I hope my videos are an example of that. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Make sure to check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made, my Patreon, or press the join button to become a member and get cool rewards like a discount on my merch, that sweet Sceptile family icon near your name, and seeing my videos days early. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram too, and I'll see you guys very soon.